The day Eleanor's life changed began like any other, with the hum of morning light spilling across her modest kitchen, untouched and lonely. Her husband had passed 2 years prior, leaving behind memories and a silence she had grown accustomed to. She moved through her days like a ghost of herself, visiting the garden her husband once tended, whispering to the roses she no longer had the heart to prune. Life, she thought, had quietly taken everything that mattered. Then one rainy Thursday, as she was arranging groceries in her tiny living room, there was a knock at the door. Standing there was a man she had never seen before. He was tall, kind-eyed, with an earnestness that seemed to shimmer in the dreary afternoon light. He smiled, awkward yet hopeful. I don't know if this is forward," he said, "but I need a bride, and I think you might need a family." Eleanor blinked, unsure whether to laugh or cry. The words were absurd, preposterous, even, but there was something in the way he looked at her, a softness that carried no judgment, only honesty. She opened the door wider, inviting him in despite the fluttering anxiety in her chest. Over tea, the man, James, explained himself. He had lost his wife in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving him with 2 small children who didn't understand why their father cried at night. He needed a partner, someone who could bring warmth and stability into their lives, but he also wanted someone who could teach him how to love again. He didn't expect Eleanor to say yes. He simply wanted to extend a lifeline, a chance for companionship and belonging. Eleanor listened, her fingers trembling around the teacup. The idea of family, something she hadn't dared to dream of since losing her husband, felt like a spark in a dark room. Yet fear held her back. Could she bear the weight of caring for children who were not hers, of loving a man who wasn't her late husband? Could she open her heart only to risk heartbreak again? Over the next few weeks, James visited often. At first, it was casual, bringing flowers for Eleanor, listening to her stories of her youth and her husband, sharing moments of quiet laughter. Gradually, his children came to visit too. The house that had been silent for years now echoed with the sounds of life, little feet thumping on wooden floors, giggles that filled the corners Eleanor thought would always remain empty. One evening, Eleanor found herself helping James' daughter, Lily, with a school project. The girl's face scrunched in frustration, and Eleanor, with gentle patience, guided her hand. "You know," Eleanor said softly, "sometimes the best art comes when you stop trying to make it perfect and just let it be." Lily's eyes lit up with understanding, and Eleanor felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't known for years. She was needed. She was helping create something beautiful, not just on paper, but in life. The turning point came unexpectedly. One night, a storm raged outside. Eleanor had stayed over to babysit as James worked late. The wind howled, and the lights flickered. The children were frightened, clinging to her as though she were a lifeboat in a churning sea. In that moment, Eleanor realized something profound: love wasn't about replacing someone lost. It was about creating new life, new bonds, new meaning. The ache in her chest softened as she held the children close, whispering reassurances into the storm. She had a family now, not by chance, but by choice. James arrived home drenched and exhausted, expecting the usual chaos of bedtime battles. Instead, he found Eleanor sitting in the living room, reading a story to the children by candlelight, her voice steady, gentle, filled with a warmth that startled even him. The moment was quiet, but it was more powerful than anything either of them had anticipated. He sat beside her, feeling a lump in his throat. "I never thought I'd find this," he murmured. "And I never imagined you'd stay." Eleanor looked at him, truly seeing him for the first time, not as a stranger, not as a man asking for something she wasn't sure she could give, but as someone who had opened the door to her heart again. "You didn't find me," she said softly. "We found each other. And I think that's enough." From that night on, the house transformed. What was once quiet became lively. Dinner conversations, shared laughter, and even occasional tears filled the rooms. Eleanor discovered joy in the small things, tucking the children in, hearing James laugh over a silly story, feeling the warmth of hands clasped in hers. It was messy, imperfect, yet profoundly real. The community around them began to notice the change too. Neighbors who had known Eleanor as a widow who withdrew from life now saw her walking in the park with a little boy on her hip, sharing cookies with a laughing girl, and exchanging smiles with a man whose eyes reflected gratitude and love. Kindness, Eleanor realized, wasn't just about grand gestures, it was in the everyday acts of showing up, of caring, of being present. Months later, as the first snow of winter blanketed the town, James knelt before Eleanor in their living room, surrounded by children holding handmade signs that read, "Will you marry us?" There were tears, laughter, and a collective heartbeat of hope and renewal. Eleanor said yes, not because she had to, but because she wanted to, because she had discovered that life could give back what it had taken if one was willing to open their heart again. In the quiet aftermath, as the children slept and the house hummed with a gentle warmth, Eleanor reflected on the journey. She had started with grief, isolation, and fear. She had ended with laughter, love, and belonging. The extraordinary truth of life, she realized, was that sometimes the family we need isn't born from blood, and the love we seek isn't about replacing the past. It's about embracing the unexpected, the messy, the imperfect, and discovering the beauty that comes when hearts open, even after loss. And so, Eleanor learned that kindness, courage, and a willingness to trust again could transform lives, not just her own, but those of everyone around her. In giving herself, she had received far more than she could have imagined: a family, a companion, and a renewed faith in the power of humanity. Life, she now knew, had a way of surprising the soul when it least expected it. And sometimes, the most profound love stories begin not with grand declarations, but with a simple, unassuming act of reaching out and finding that someone else has been reaching for you all along.